What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep them flowing. Where do you come from? Where are you going? What are you feeling tonight? And what are you showing? Where do you come from? 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 Where are you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep them flowing.
What's going on, everybody? We are live on the download, and where's that? Where's my overlay thing? Okay, they didn't want to come through. I'm going to be pulling that up. Welcome to the show. We're going to be reviewing all of Secret Levels happenings. Each episode, we're going to go through one by one with all of these awesome people on the panel, which I will be pulling up shortly. But before we get into that, let's just do a little bit of an introduction into who everybody is, and we'll start with Jim. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the panel.
What's up, gamers? Jim here. And I've only watched 2 episodes of Secret Level.
Well, we'll be making sure to discuss those ones off the top to keep you in the know. And then we got Mr. SBG here.
Yeah, man. I play games and I'm old.
Oh my god.
There we go. And Mr. Nads.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I watched a few episodes of Secret Level, and it's quite interesting. So I'm pretty happy to continue watching and finishing watching them. So funny enough, I thought like they were like just like a few of them, and then I stopped, and then I think more show up or something. Or like I just noticed that, but I've been watching them and liking them.
Yes, Cowboy, all 16 episodes are out, and it has become a phenom. It has actually become Amazon Prime's #1 new animated series, most watched after launch. So big success for them, and they have been greenlit for a season 2. So if you enjoyed the content, there is another season coming. So now that the introductions are done, and it's Christmas time, I'm wearing a Christmas sweater. Check that out.
Nice, nice.
We are going to get into it, and the first one we are going to be discussing, let's pull this up here, have some background here, is Dungeons and Dragons. So this is called the Queen's Cradle, inspired by the Tyranny of Dragons mod for D&D. And in this episode, we have about 15 to 16 minutes of great content. Starts off with a scene where they are getting to this boy who's got tattoos over his face. They rescue him. And then a tale ensues into this dragon. So a lot of very cool visual feasting happening here. But I want to get into what the panel thought of this episode, because the D&D was a big one. It hit home, and there's some D&D gamers here. So SPG, I want to get your thoughts on what you thought of the character development, maybe some visual storytelling you want to touch on, or how this really felt like a D&D campaign, or did they miss the mark? Let's get some of your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I did feel like a D&D campaign. It felt like the end of one, to be 100% honest, or a fantastic beginning, because you don't mix in Tiamat into the mix. Like as soon as I figured out that they were actually going up against Tiamat, I was like, oh, it's over for these adventurers. But the boy you mentioned, he's haunted by this sinister force throughout the episode. And it's so cool how they sort of break that down. The essence leaves him, and it ends up creating Tiamat in spectacular fashion. But some of the like, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done. The story was really cool. It left you wanting more. But there was a few negatives, like some of the inherent silliness that happens at the table wasn't quite in there, and it felt introductory, and rather than like a full standalone story. But it was really cool. I enjoyed it.
Excellent synopsis on that. And we'll get into Gem here. Your relation to D&D and introduction. How did this make you feel? Do you think they hit the mark? What was your thoughts and review of the episode?
So in terms of D&D, I've never played Baldur's Gate, and I've never done real life D&D yet. So my only introduction to D&D is the movie from 1 or 2 years ago, on Honor Among Thieves, I think it was called, which I absolutely loved. But aside from not being into D&D, I do love medieval fantasy stuff. I play MMORPGs. I just love those type of worlds. And with the secret level of what they've shown, it's great. Like with like they got like what 10 minutes to tell a story. It's very compact. They just throw you in there. Like there's no introduction or whatsoever. They just throw you in there and hope you can understand what's going on within the first minute, and then you can already guess how they've come together and stuff, and then you just watch their journey for the next 10 minutes, and then yeah, it was visually nice. Again, you have like 10 minutes to know these characters. Like within the time limit they've had, they've done a great job at that. Yeah, that's that's about it, really.
Just to springboard a little bit off of what Jem just said, it's basically like you would take a 10 episode story arc and trim all the fat off of it and give it to you in a 15-minute display. Like it's really well done.
Maker, another D&D player. Did you have any thoughts? Are you able to jump off of mute? How
Yeah.
did this make you feel in terms of experiencing D&D in the real world?
I did like it. I agree with SPG that it kind of misses that silliness that happens at the table, and I guess wackiness, and just mostly stays pretty serious for the story bit. But like you can guess, because all these characters are very different ethnicities, and like visually they're very different from each other, but they've banded together and they kind of trust each other, and that's like the whole thing at the end, is like, even though they might not have known this person as long as the others, they're still willing to stand by them and fight by their side. So yeah, I really liked it. Visually, it was super impressive, and hopefully we see more in season 2.
A question I wanted to ask to the seasoned D&D players. When we saw action scenes like the invading forces coming in on our heroes. How did you feel like they displayed the spells? We saw things like Ice Storm. We saw a deflect of a missile, perhaps. Do you think they captured these moves and attacks similar to what a D&D table is like?
I will say yes, but it is all subjective because what you're doing is at the table, you're building a representation in your mind of what took place. And combat takes a while, but literally, if you played it out, it would be seconds. Like, I mean, it's really neat the visual representation and style that they went with, but it is subjective, I would say.
All right. And Nads, did you want to get some thoughts into here? How did you feel like the D&D story came off? Did you enjoy it? Was there parts like Tiamat emerging from the dragon like aliens that made you feel a certain way? You want to get into your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I found like this episode is like a prequel for maybe a story they can start now. Like seeing how Baldur's Gate 3 was very well maybe D&D want to get more involved into video game and do this, right? So maybe, because like maybe it's opening for doing more video game in that genre. And then I've seen a few of those episodes, and it all seems to relate or like get close to become a video game at the end. So because it's all related to video game, I feel there's going to be more coming out of that, and I think like that feels like a prequel to story or something to create a bigger story, if that makes sense. So that could be interesting to see further, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of these I would love to see in full-fledged movies, 10 episode arcs. They all seem to have those kind of legs behind them. All in all, my takeaway after watching the Dungeons and Dragons episode is I'd really like to experience a campaign. There was a lot of very cool elements. And obviously, the roles that each character play are extremely important. Many references to now we found our cleric, we're missing a cleric, and who's the one to make this invulnerability bubble and kind of save everybody? It's the cleric. So I like it. It had a lot of great takeaways for me, and hey, I'll watch anything else D&D related, yeah, at this point. So maybe I'll have to catch that movie Jem was talking about. I don't think I saw it. The
No,
major
I think
motion picture.
it's on Netflix, or yeah, it's on there.
Okay. Nice. Any more wrap ups? Your interpretation of perhaps the Dungeon Master. Do you think that they should have had more interpretation of a DM? What are your thoughts on maybe that one?
The story wasn't set up for a DM. You're literally catching up with adventurers while they're deep, or at the beginning, or at the end of a journey. Like you said, they rounded out their party, so it seems like it would be a beginning. But dropping a large character like Tiamat, I don't know. They didn't have a chance against Tiamat. They're lucky that that boy haunted by sinister forces was as powerful as he was.
And just for 2 seconds, because noob here. And the thing doesn't, the episode does not explain it at all. But could you just explain Tiamat?
Yeah, so Tiamat is like an elemental dragon, basically. So okay, I'm gonna read you a little bit here. The Rise of Tiamat. This is just a little excerpt from The Rise of Tiamat. The cult of the dragon leads the charge in an unholy crusade to bring Tiamat back to the realms. So there's a whole bunch of lore baked in here. But Tiamat is basically an elemental dragon. They even in the Baldur's Gate, there's lore in there about how the Githyanki are allowed to ride red dragons. It goes all the way back to Tiamat. So this character is like a almost a banished deity or a banished god from the realms. So it's a very important and very pivotal character for them to have just dropped into the beginning of a story, or even at the end of one, to be fair.
Very
Interesting.
cool. Very cool. Well, that was the review. If you liked it, like and subscribe. We'll be reviewing every single one of the secret level episodes. All right, let's get into the next one, and that is Sifu. So, Gem, I can understand if you want to mute or deafen, but the Pac-Man one is coming up around the corner. Sifu covers a singular boss in the actual game itself. So that is a real boss, Sean, that you do encounter in the game. It is a interesting concept in which you, the viewer, are asked, what is morally right, revenge, what is worth your time, and the currency of time. So I thought there was a lot to walk away and think about here. It follows a boy who turns into an old man throughout the episode in attempts to take revenge, because each time he dies, he has to be re-brought back. And he gets older and he learns more. So there's a scene where he slips on blood and dies. He then reviews the next 8 years training and figuring it out. So when he comes back and he doesn't slip on the blood, he then knows. So it's that kind of loop. But I'm gonna go on the panel here. Maker, did you want to give any sort of synopsis here? I know this one wasn't maybe your favorite one on the list here. But maybe go into why you thought that it didn't bring Seafood to the main stage here, or what it lacked.
Like, I felt like it didn't really it lacked a lot of suspense, because I felt like they never really fought. They like, even I would say the main bad guy that he's like chasing after, or the second main bad guy, you never really see him fight that bad guy. It's just implied that he beat him and that he's on the next guy type deal. And that to me, like, it's like you want to build up to something, and there was never really that something to build up to. And so it was too short, in my opinion. I would have loved to have seen like the fight, the club fight in the game is just so cool, because like the visual representation of everything, and it just within, I think like it was only like a minute, and then they're out of the club and they're on the sky bridge. So like, yeah, it lacked that atmosphere that I feel like the game truly nails.
I mean, the club is literally called the club. I mean, there's not very much substance to this one. It was a visual eyepiece if you like that kung fu beat 'em up action. I mean, half of the episode, if not more, took place over a sky bridge where he just hand-to-hand combat a bunch of people. I'll have to say that in the land of hand-to-hand combat, if anyone had a gun, this would be over.
Shoot the glass out from underneath them.
Yeah. But you have to, I think, take the parts where they did well. They tried to translate the fact that this was a martial arts choreography eye feast. I think that you saw a lot of awesome moves play out, and you kind of wanted to go into Sifu afterwards to experience it. There was very little on the character development, I will admit. It was a very short story, but I think they just wanted to translate that one message. Is revenge worth the time it takes? And SPG, I wanted to ask you, is revenge worth the time it takes?
It is to this guy. I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was cool. They focused on a young martial artist seeking revenge. I also thought that they kind of captured the game aesthetic and the brutal action. But what I thought was the most interesting thing is that they captured the game's roguelike mechanic with his aging. And like every time he failed and he had to learn a very powerful lesson, he came back an elder, more wiser man because, well, he's dying a bit or whatever. However, it's tied, to those rings that we're breaking. I think the roguelike mechanic and his age, I think that was a really nice touch.
In regards to the age thing, the one thing that kind of bugs me, so like uh in the game, like the roguelike elements is you'll die and gain ages, but at a certain point you will die and you go back to your main base where and I feel like it's missing that main base where he's like strategizing on like all the different bad guys and taking each of them out. I think that would have been a cool scene to have of like just that board like tying them all together.
Yeah. And I think they did the best they could with what little time they had. I believe he dropped into this red zone where he was kind of training, and I guess that was their visualization of it. But for sure, they could have done so much more with the characters here. But 8-9 minutes is so hard to tell a story. Nads,
I think it was like 5. Like
this one was
it's
5,
really
yeah.
short.
Yeah.
I can actually double check while you
The
guys
runtime.
talk about it.
Nads,
Yeah.
did you watch the Sifu episode?
Yes, I did watch the Sifu episode. I didn't play the game, but I know about the game. I knew about the game before watching this because I saw some gameplay before, and I feel like this episode is basically made to show what kind of game it is and to get you involved in it, if that makes sense. It's just a little story in the middle of the game, and it just giving you that, so like it make you interested to play the game, because it made me interested about it, because I've there's other games in similar genre of mechanic where like when you die you get like revived, but something else happen. In this case, you get older, and you can only revive so many times, right? So, I found it quite interesting, and then like it made me want to look more into the game, right? So that's my take on that.
Well, in the end, I definitely think that he should have not gone for revenge, and that lady knew where it was at. Just spend the time living, make something really nice to eat. Food's where it's at. Those dumplings look delicious.
I looked it up. It's about a 6.5 minute episode.
6.5 minutes. Crazy the stories they tell in 6.5 minutes. Well, let's jump on to the next one. That one was a heartwarming one. One of the only ones that I got a little bit tearied over. I thought it was pretty cool. Now, this next one, I gotta say, was a surprise that it was one of my favorites. And that is New World. So, obviously, we're going to see New World, Amazon's game, on an Amazon Prime show. But I didn't realize, one, that Arnold Schwarzenegger would be voicing Aelstrom. And I thought he did an absolute fantastic job. I think some of the best stories are when you have a character that you instantly can feel for, and then they change over time. And I think that's exactly what we saw here, was his character evolving emotionally. So very heartwarming story, and lessons were definitely learned, and such a lighthearted, you laughed on this one. It was good to see, and I'd have to rate this one pretty high. We'll start here with Maker at the top here. How did you feel about King Aelstrom? Do you think they communicated this well? Did you play New World, and do you think they captured the game well?
Oh yeah. I've got about 100 hours in. I don't know if I would say that they captured the world accurate, because I mean, to me, it's there's a lot of farming in that game, like chopping down trees and mining stuff, and I guess you never really saw any of that. You just saw him go up to the king and go up to maybe that cavern where he's like it symbolizes him fighting monsters to get better gear, and and come back to challenge the king. Um, yeah, I liked it though. Like it told a good message, that eventually he realized that the one who always stood by his side was the guy, and I really liked that aspect of it, and it did make it probably one of the better ones of these for me.
Absolutely. And yeah, they definitely didn't put the mindless grinding into the episode. They only had like 15 minutes, I'm sure. Uh, SPG, were you surprised to see Arnold make an appearance? How did you feel he delivered on his role?
Well, listen, I'm very surprised he played this role, but I can't see anyone else actually playing it now that he has. Because he charmed the pants off of us. You're like, this is a heartfelt story. No, this is an awful king, dude. He's an awful guy who took an awful long time to learn some simple lessons, bro. Okay. But a great story. I loved it. Did it have much to do with the actual New World? I don't think so. But Arnold charmed the pants off me because I even liked him by the end, but his character was awful. He was an awful person.
I have a question. What was with the immortal concept? Is that a thing in the game? Like, do people not die in New World? How does?
Yeah, like okay, so in this there is a exploring of themes of like rebirth and purpose. I have no idea because I never played the game if that's central to the actual game.
Okay, Nads, did you play New World?
I didn't, but I know it got popular at first. But like my take on it, again, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. He did very good for this, and I think it's just like telling you the concept of a MMORPG. So that when you die, you revive at some point. And maybe that's the annotation they're making is that he got to this
Well,
island that is like he's tried to become the king, and every time he die he get revived because that's part of the game. And then the
you,
idea of like him becoming a good person at the end and forging arm for his friend, that was pretty cool. But yeah, interesting.
you do technically start on the beach when you play the game, and yeah,
Oh,
if you
there you
die,
go.
you would respawn back. But you can like create like a home waypoint, and, like buy a home in a location, you'll spawn there, type deal.
So the idea of him always like respawning at the beach was part of the game then.
A little bit. I mean, just
Yeah.
because that's where you start in the game.
That's fun. That's fun. I like to see little things like that. Well,
I think they
awesome.
went for that.
Awesome. One of my favorites, because I laughed and my heart was warmed. And what was with that king? Why could he never lose? What was that dude about? Like, was that part of the game too? Is there a king that could never lose?
No. You're
No,
looking at it
no, that's
wrong.
made up.
Arnold was never destined to win. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I see. Arnold was just that bad. I got it. Now.
You needed to level up.
Well, let's get into then my next, I would say one of my definite top ones, even higher than New World, and that would be Unreal Tournament. Um, Unreal Tournament follows the story of Zan, a miner from the Leander Corporation, who gets a little bit scrambled in the head when humans don't act right. And they're abusing their robots. So I absolutely feel like this was one of the IPs that anyone my age has had an experience with. Anyone a little bit older has definitely had more experiences than I have, but Unreal Tournament was the PvP game for me and all my friends growing up. Just getting into there, shooting each other in wild mania. So to see this full-fledged story, I think this is what this series is about. To really bring life and personality and charm into a video game. And in my mind, F Concord. Like, why didn't they come out with a new Unreal Tournament? Jeez, that would have been awesome. Zan
True.
is definitely the shining star. And he's become the hero of my heart. Oh my god, what an awesome leader. What did you guys think of the episode? I'm obviously just gushing all about it because I think it's so great. Um, go Zan. I'm Team Zan. How did you guys feel? Do you think Zan was in the right, or they should have just smashed that robot off of the beginning? And we'll start with Nads this time.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of funny because I saw trailer today about it's called a robot or something like that, but like it has that same idea or concept basically. So and like playing Unreal Engine, like sorry, Unreal Tournament before, like it just yeah, like it's a good. I like that story. It was a good story. It just like show like those robots being oppressed and being used for wrongly, technically, and like one rebelling against a human, saying no. We're something. We're not only robots, mindless robots. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you think Zan deserved justice, or do you think they should have just crushed him? SPG, what are your thoughts? SPG, he may have stepped away. Maker of Chaos. How did you
Sorry
feel
about
about?
Oh,
Oh no,
he's
worries.
back.
You want to go?
Yeah, do you want me to talk about Unreal?
Unreal Tournament, the
Listen,
rise
man,
of
that
Zan.
droid, anything that's subjugated has a will to break free. Okay, so I was rooting for the droid as well. But where I get a little confused here is, was this always the story? Was this always the narrative of Unreal Tournament? Like, I just figured it would have been like a whole bunch of prisoners that were fighting against each other to get freedom or something. Like, but instead it was a robot, like AI sentiency, that was trying to break free from this arena. Like, I don't know, it was a little confusing to me, but Unreal has a awesome spot in my heart. So I'm with you, Rue. I can't believe they haven't released something on this front for a little bit.
Yeah, and it was funny because I did some reading myself back after I watched the episode because I was like, wow, Zan is my new hero. And it actually is the story of the very first Unreal Tournament, and you have to go through all of these robots, and Zan was the first winner of the Unreal Tournament. So, pretty cool.
That's funny.
Pretty cool that they literally took that story and then they put it into this one. But it gave me a new spot in my heart for the AI bots we fight in games. I'll tell you that.
Hey, maybe they're gonna remake Unreal Tournament 1. Maybe
Uh,
that's the plot line, right?
I
So
think Unreal Tournament decided to make Fortnite, and I think it's going to be hard for them to turn around.
yeah.
Maker, how did you feel about Zan and his uprise? Are you Team Human or you Team Zan?
Well, I think ultimately is the human's downfall. Like when you broadcast this thing worldwide, and then those systems get hacked. Like it just, I feel like the humans kind of fell for that on their own regard. It's just stupidity on them. I think they are somewhat justified because I mean, especially if the robots have sentience. It for some reason it just like it very much just immediately makes me think of like District 9 with like the aliens where like
Yeah, I
Oh
could
yeah,
see
that was
that.
good.
humans abuse them and stuff like that, and since they were without their leader, without the head, they just kind of took it, and it was until that one human who was turning into the one, like, basically fought back and sent the mothership back. And that's kind of like, it's one of those like cliffhanger endings, just like this was, where like the upload completed. And I did really like it. It was definitely one of the better ones. It just feels like one of those stories that I've seen like multiple times.
Yeah, and we've all seen this story, right? It's the main plot of Star Wars. But I think seeing this through the eyes of a robot may be a little bit different, but and then especially through the lens of a video game that you only know in kind of PvP action. So I will say, nowadays all stories are kind of ripped from like, 5 to 6 essential plot lines. And
True.
but it is cool for me to relate to it on a firsthand experience with Unreal Tournament. Um, I was doing more research. They made a movie. Oh my god, I should go back and watch the movie.
Yeah, I was while you're doing that, I was like looking
Oh.
it up, and it talked about in the first game the human and Scarred War, which I don't know what that means.
When did they made the movie?
Yeah.
Mining was the primary method of financing the war, was unpopular with the working class who grew weary of the working conditions of the war.
Well, all in all, this was definitely one of my top episodes. I still think about Zan, and I think he's a badass AI robot, and he makes me think different. So, the Rise of Zan, I'm all here for it. So, definitely would recommend that one. The next one I want to jump into is another one that I think hit extremely hard. I would definitely say I feel like the first 8 episodes just smashed it out of the park. Level 5, they're calling Warhammer 40,000, and they shall know no fear. Titus is the main central theme of the episode, and a warrior who knows no fear. So I absolutely think that it was an excellent theme to have. He portrayed it as badass as possible. I mean, these guys, when they were just outreaching, crushing skulls, it really felt like the game in that aspect where you're just fighting through these mass hordes. Yeah, they did excellent here. The visual masterpiece of that alien going through their minds, um, definitely 100% accurate in terms of how cool they made it feel. So I'll let you guys jump into it as well. What did you think of the Warhammer? Do you think that they translated the Warhammer IP correctly? I mean, this IP has been around ever since I was in diapers on tabletops. So this one is a hard one to kind of encompass in kind of 15 minutes. So SPG, have you been around Warhammer when you were younger?
Not when I was younger, but it's a great game. It's got a lot of lore. The thing I'll say about this show is that you mix space marines on a suicide mission, exploring the grim dark, and you adhere to the game's lore and intense action and gore. It's knocked out of the park, man. I wanted a whole series or a whole movie. Now, did this episode like explain any of that stuff lore wise to you? No, it was just all spectacle, but it was amazing.
Absolutely. Maker, you just played through Warhammer. Do you think that they were able to translate how it felt in the game to go through those hordes? What do you think they did some things right? And did you have any experience with the tabletop? Did you paint those little things?
I actually I had a roommate for a couple years who did play Warhammer 40K, and I did play one or two games of it, but I had no idea what I was doing. I also played the Warhammer tabletop as well. The it's like the D&D style. Played a couple sessions of that, and that was pretty fun. I think they did kind of nail that vibe for these like Space Marines, because I believe that the main thing was to show that these are like, it's like 300. They're supposed to be those elite of the elite, the 300 versus the thousands, and they can take them on. Um, and like just when they were coming at them with like the vehicles, and the dude just pulls up the shield and just like smash. Like that is Warhammer Space Marines at least. Um, so yeah, I thought that was badass, and yeah, I'd love to see more of that, and maybe delve a little bit more into the lore behind it as well, which I still have no clue. Even after playing Space Marine 2, I have no clue how that all works.
Titus is badass. That's all I know about the lore.
Yeah, yeah.
Nads, how did you feel watching the Warhammer 40,000?
It felt me hype about Warhammer. So I wasn't exposed to Warhammer as much as probably other people here, but had a good friend of mine that was what he's spending his time is painting those little character to play the board game and stuff like that. And he always got excited for any video game, anything coming out about Warhammer because he was a big fan of the Space Marine. So you got multiple like group, I guess, that they fight each other all the time, and he loved the Space Marine. He had all of them, and every little character had his own story, like their main legend. And the fact that they brought like this character Titus, I don't know if he's related with the latest video game, but the idea of like looking at a specific character and they're like how they became a space marine and how they act, it's pretty cool. I was like that made me eye. And some of the stuff they're doing within the video was like amazing. Like they just show how awesome they are, right? And that's how I remember it, like from my friend when he was describing them. He's like, they're just like beasts and machine, and they're just like, so well trained and stuff like that. And no, like watching this, it just make me want to play tabletop, like just or learn more about the lore. So I would like to see more about this, maybe like more movie or a bit more.
Yeah, Henry
Right.
Cavill apparently is going to be making a movie, but we'll see when that
Oh.
comes out. I definitely think that I would win in hand-to-hand combat against Titus. Unfortunately, that will never be proven, so we'll just have to call it a draw.
You use the power of your air.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely a feast for the eyes. The boy with no fear was able to do the most badass thing, and definitely a visual eye feast. The next one I want to talk about is, and I keep saying this about season 1, but this is definitely my favorite one. I literally put out a thing about this. I said I need the exact game that was shown in Secret Levels Pac-Man. And what did they do on the Game Awards? They released Shadow Labyrinth, the exact game that is Secret Levels Pac-Man. This is a reimagining of Pac-Man, the arcade Bandai Namco game that you remember everyone's seen before in their life. Absolutely a spectacle of just pure imagination to take these little dots and to make them into full-fledged humans, to make Pac-Man this robotic monster, to make Pinky this badass monster. There is so much happening in this episode. I never wanted it to end. I thought it was uber cool when he's walking out of the forest and he grabs those cherries. There was such an amazing entourage of things happening in this episode. I never wanted it to end. I just wanted more repetition and repetition. How did you guys feel watching this one? I'm gonna start with Jem because we haven't heard from him in a little bit. Pac-Man was a definite feast for the eyes and the mind. How did you feel? Did you miss Pac-Man? What are some of your thoughts on this one?
Could you come back to me? I'm trying to remember the whole episode.
No worries, no worries. Let's jump into Maker. How did you feel about this alien? Pac-Man taking him along a journey, just sort of taking him through all these different levels, telling him to eat and eat over and over again.
Yeah, you know what it kind of reminds me of? Hansel and Gretel. Where like this person lures them to their house and says, "Hey, eat up, eat up, eat up," not because the whole
Yeah, I
purpose is
see
they want
that.
to eat them. Yeah, I really like that. It was like a really interesting take on Pac-Man, and I'm curious as to like how it plays in the game, like story wise, because is it Pac-Man? It seems like Pac-Man is trying to escape to like maybe to another realm or to another location, and so I'm curious to see how the game turns out in that aspect, and if we maybe we'll see a bigger full-fledged game if this one is successful.
For sure. And SPG, how did you feel about the interpretation when you played Pac-Man some odd years ago? Did you see this in your mind when you were eating those little
Not at
dots?
all. Not at all. And let me say this. I really like Maker's take, but mine is much more dark. This Pac-Man entity, this thing, was trapped inside wherever it's at. And it created this life form as an escape. But it has to use them in a symbiotic way, build up their strength so then it can take over to escape that realm. And the ghosts that it sees are probably the original inhabitants that trapped it. It chased them inside, and now it is trapped, and it created an entire life form to try to escape the maze because it can't do it on its own. It is so intense, so dark horror-esque. It's like it blew my mind for an interpretation on Pac-Man. I think it's extremely powerful, and it gets your mind racing. It's just amazing.
I do like that take. Well, I think I thought something similar. It's just to me the Hansel and Gretel bit isn't necessarily just about it eating him. It's about him being big enough to be used, and so it's a little different.
And
I agree with you, SVG. It's more, instead of Pac-Man being the hero, it's more he's the villain, actually. He's the
Yeah.
enemy.
And that life form he created was the conduit for him to escape, and that's why he needs it to eat, and that's why it keeps pooping out more.
and
Yeah.
my interpretation, I feel like those aliens when they were in the pods were the little dots. And that's all you could do back in the day is make those little pixels. So Pac-Man was breeding that little pixel into becoming that big dot in the corner, right? That's the idea. And then once he was big enough, once he had become strong enough, become that little dot into the big dot, then Pac-Man could consume and take out the ghosts, protecting him from or keeping him trapped within the walls here. So, I mean,
What's really interesting about
powerful,
the dynamic
powerful.
is that the host figured out it was the conduit and sacrificed himself to keep it trapped. That's powerful, and it's great writing. I loved it.
Yes, because that shit never happened on the board.
And I feel like that's the direction they're going to be going with the video game, maybe. Or maybe you're the monster, you're the Pac-Man, and your lives, every time you die, you have to take another clone or another, like, body to, like, keep going. I'm very, like, happy to watch this, and at the Game Award, the announcement of the game that's related to that. So I have a feeling that, like, that's like the the idea of the game in a video concept, and then you go play the game, it's gonna feel like that or something. So you try to escape. Like, if you think about the old Pac-Man game, their goal was to eat everybody to go to the next level, right? Well, it probably in this case going to be the same thing. And you try to escape from that maze, and you're the monster, but, like, you're rooting for yourself because you're the monster, right?
Yeah, and I love the end repetition, just banging his head like a methodical monster. I just don't know where Miss Pac-Man is in all of this. I swear, like, come on.
Maybe it's gonna meet her halfway after a couple
He
levels.
was
Or
the
maybe
good
that's
AI.
that's
She
who
was
he's
the
trying
good
to get
AI that
to.
wasn't banished.
Oh, maybe she's
Yeah.
is Princess.
Yeah, that's who he's trying to get to on the other side of that door, Miss Pac-Man.
Nah, she banished him from court.
Oh,
She can't get out.
Miss Pac-Man put him in here. He's in the doghouse.
Yeah.
Jem, any thoughts on Pac-Man before we move on to the next one?
I was actually disappointed with it because you guys overhyped the hell out of this episode. So I assume right at the end we'll just have an overall review about the secret levels, right? Like what we think overall.
Uh,
If
yeah, I mean,
so, because yeah, I think that would be great if we all just end just overall how we feel about secret levels. Um, so I didn't really care about secret levels, but Wilson was gonna watch it, so I thought let me tag along. We watched Dungeons and Dragons together, and then I told him let's watch Pac-Man as well because I'm curious, why you guys like it so much, and I'm just thinking, what could you possibly write about Pac-Man as a story? Because it's just such a simple game. I watched it. I was just straight up disappointed. And I was also thinking, along with SPG, that the main entity dying should be the ghost. And that would explain why the ghosts keep chasing Pac-Man. But they didn't show that in the episodes. Maybe they didn't even think about that far ahead. But fast forward to the Game Awards, they're actually making this story as a game, which I am excited about because the story wasn't bad at all. I wasn't disappointed with the story. I was just disappointed that this has nothing to do with Pac-Man. And I don't hate on it either because if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, make a 10-minute amazing story about Pac-Man," I would just give them the middle finger because like that's such a difficult task to do because you're dealing with like three little objects and dots and stuff. Like you can't write a masterpiece or a writing like that. And this writing again has nothing to do with Pac-Man, but as its own unique game that we saw at the Game Awards, that I'm excited for, and that I do want to see. I want to see how the gameplay evolves around this story and how the gameplay works and stuff. And will we see more about the story? Will we know about being? Maybe we'll see Miss Pac-Man and how they interfere with this new version of Pac-Man. I'm just excited for the new game.
well, it's good to hear all sides of it. And I definitely feel like there was some crazy fan theories all about Pac-Man. And I think they just kind of put it all together into one mashed little love letter to the fan because there is a lot of fan theories that have come out throughout time about Pac-Man as a Lovecraftian horror story. So, I think there is some sort of root in the deep darks of Pac-Man communities of where these stories could come from and this dark twist. But I definitely think it is a hard task. And if somebody said write something on Pac-Man, I'd have to take some mushrooms to get some good ideas.
That's probably what they did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where that came from. All right. Well, there's strength and repetition. I thought you would have liked that, Gem. You play so much finals. Then that should be your logo. There's strength and repetition. But let's jump on to the next one. Really powerful stuff from Pac-Man. I think they hit it out of the park there and definitely captured imagination of a lot of people. But the level 7 was Crossfire, the good conflict. Definitely a game I have never played before, but guess what? Its revenue is out of this chart, like crazy bananas. So they had to make an episode on it, and I will say this thing was exciting from beginning to end. I mean, even when the tarp sort of drifted off of the skyscraper when the wind blew away, like everything was tense. Everything was high stakes. Throwing the bullet shields on the car, shooting from the side. I thought it was a visual masterpiece. Not to mention the stars they had in it. So I really thought they did a good job. I didn't quite feel like I related all too much. I kind of just saw it as Call of Duty in my mind, and that's how I move forward with it. But we'll give it up to the panel here. Nads, how did you feel watching Crossfire? Any thoughts on your review for this one?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was like two team fighting each other, and then I like what they keep repeating themselves. We're not the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. On each side. That's probably how they feel. And then they had like one team had to protect the case, the other team had to get the case or something. Or no, sorry, the person. It just gave like an idea that each team had an objective to complete their mission, and I no, I like that. The story was like it was there a story, not really, but like just showing like uh, both team having their objective and doing anything to complete their mission, right? So I really like that. It was a good show. So.
Definitely, we'll have to admit for that one. Cool to see. Definitely just high tense intensity. SPG, did you feel like they brought the intensity for Crossfire?
They certainly did. Crossfire never looked this damn good. Okay,
No.
Unreal. Like, I want to specify that
Yeah,
this was the
definitely.
most. This was the most beautiful, um, like use of Unreal Engine 5 that I've seen. Because all this was built in Unreal Engine 5. That's why when we talk about Unreal Engine 5, I say it's a movie studio. Because it is. Basically, you have all these tools at your disposal. Mocap is off the chain. These people's faces are like going to be in our game so soon. It's going to blow our minds. Like, it's come so far. Seeing how this was built, I could have watched an entire 2 hour long movie and not felt like I was just watching CGI. That's how well this was done.
Yeah, I have to
Um,
agree. Go,
I,
Maker.
I do have to I would have to say the visuals are very impressive. Like you mentioned in Call of Duty, it does make me think of that. I just wish there were more or better set pieces. Like the bridge. Just I guess when I look back at a lot of the other episodes, I think of like the different set pieces that they have and how visually that they look in comparison, and this one just doesn't stand out enough to me. Um, but my biggest complaint is the story because they keep saying that they're not the bad guy, but we don't know anything. Like they don't describe what's in the box. They don't describe what each side is goal is, other than to get the box. It doesn't make any real sense. And so it just leaves you clueless, and I think that's what makes it probably one of the weakest ones for me.
Well, they're not the bad guys, Maker. Houston, any thoughts? Did you see the Crossfire episode?
Yeah, I've seen them all. To me, like I didn't see any relation to Crossfire, and I think I maybe only spent like 30 minutes ever playing that game. But I saw it more as the 5v5 single objective, whether you want to say Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, any of them. That's what I saw. The way they did it, I think was great. And I do also agree with Maker on the fact of assets to what was there visually. I think there could have been more, but overall, I think it's a real good generalization of that style of game and the gameplay.
Cool
I
stuff.
also wanted to
Yep.
bring up that this is for Crossfire, the original game, not Crossfire X, which Crossfire X came out more recently. It's like a more old school, like Counter-Strike, yeah, esque game. It's not the whole story bit of Crossfire X. I don't believe this is supposed to be that.
Yeah, when you guys told me there was an episode about Crossfire on secret levels, I had to Google. I was like, "There's no way you guys are talking about the same Crossfire that I played back in like 15 years ago." Because the one I played, it was made in South Korea. It's proper Asian. Like you needed to, like all the interface and stuff was Asian language, and I played that game for like 1 or 2 years because it was really good. It's very close to Counter Strike, but it had very unique, fun game modes. And then I googled it. Turns out, yeah, this is literally based on that game that I played 15 years ago. I was like so surprised. Like Why? Like, this is a Western studio company making a game on something so niche, so very specific. But that's wild to me. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's. I wonder how they chose games. Did they literally just throw darts at a board with every single video game ever? I don't know. Did they ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT for spit me out a random list of 18 games?
They asked the Panderstone. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It could have
and
been something as simple as the way that they did Love and Robots. You know, it's just make stories, bring them to us, and we'll pick ones we like.
Well, as long as they didn't do what they
Um,
did to make
well,
Borderlands.
well, the main reason I think they brought up
Agreed.
Crossfire is because Crossfire is, I think, still popular in Asia. Um, I know that it blew up over there, and I think that's why. I mean, similar with Honor of Kings, but Honor of Kings is a mobile game. But we'll get to that.
and
Yes.
the Crossfire the game never had a story. It was literally just like a Counter-Strike Asian clone.
Yeah.
And it
So
never looked as good either.
so I don't know what the story they put in secret level, but I can tell you with confidence they could have applied the same thing to like Counter Strike or a game similar to that.
Yeah, it did feel like there was no story. It was just deliver the package. Okay, we're not the bad guys. Pow, 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 pow. Okay, we're not the bad guys. Get the package.
You're
It
just
was
doing
just
a job.
high tension, intense
Yeah.
action. Um,
I just looked up that Crossfire game. It, even though it came out in 2007, 17 years ago, in 2019 it made 1.4 billion dollars.
What, in that year alone?
wow.
In 2019 alone, yeah,
That's a lot of
1.4
money. That's a
billion
lot of
dollars.
money laundering.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
I see what you're saying, SPG.
there was a television series based on the game called Crossfire in Asia, in 2020 that had more than 1.7 billion views.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, it's still popular to this day in China.
That's crazy, man. It was it was a great game when I played it. I played it a lot.
Well, that is a lot of background on Crossfire. I didn't think we were going to get into, but definitely a visually appealing episode, high tension. I think the way it was written was meant to keep you on the edge of your seat, and I think they accomplished that. Will I be playing Crossfire? Probably not, but it was a good display of a tactical shooter. Well, let's get into what I am going to say again was my absolute favorite, and I think it's going to be the favorite of a lot of people on this panel, and that is Armored Core Asset Management. Now, I have played through this game 4 times. It is that good. It is the game of my year for 2023, action game of the year. Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, brilliant. I think they captured everything in Armored Core down to the T. The fact that he was using a sword, a Zimmerman, the execution, all of that spot on, direct from the game. The fact that he had the voice in his head, very much translated to choral, and the attitude of the augmented soldier is exactly how I felt playing through the game. Everything on point. Favorite episode, down to the very last scene. Keanu Reeves blew this one out of the park. Great performance from him, and goddamn, I love it. And the biggest excitement for me about Armored Core coming on to season 1 is that means they have a relationship with FromSoft, and we could be getting another FromSoft story in chapter 2 of Secret Levels. So I think that is another huge takeaway for me. I gotta stop gushing over this one. Maker, I know you played Armored Core 6. What did you feel about this one? Do you think they captured the essence of the game? What did you think, good and bad, on this one?
Yeah, this was one of my favorites for sure. Like, I feel like they nailed the whole this AI or whatnot talking to you, because that is very much in Armored Core 6. Um, and this whole almost like the character being a little bit delusional, um, and being being the best type deal. And I love that aspect of it, even to like the conclusion of finding out that the people that he was hunting were like him. And yeah, just awesome. I would have taken a whole season of this one. Um,
Yeah.
and I hope they do.
Mr. Jizzle SPG, how did you feel about Armored Core?
I have not played Armored Core. I've watched you play Armored Core. But what I can say is Keanu Reeves does a great performance. The mocap captures every one of his like thoughts and like on his face as he's fighting. I think that was really cool. I think it's cool that he's kind of fighting his past demons a little bit in his own mind. He's got that voice, and it's how he was created on why he's kind of schizophrenic in that way. And he thinks that he's the only one out there. And then the greatest, I think, of writing twists is when you can subvert the audience. Okay, that is a good thing sometimes, and when it's done in the proper way. And this was done in the proper way. So what you would normally think is that this guy's going to find out that he's not the only one, and then he's going to be interested to find out, well, how was I made? Why are there more of me? Let me get to know these people. No, he crushes their head. There can be only one. It was great, dude. I loved it. I would have loved, just like Maker said, to see a whole series based on this, especially if Keanu Reeves was in the chair. Fantastic, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They pulled it off. Nads, how did you feel watching the Armored Core episode? Do you think this was the strongest one because of the star power, or did you feel otherwise?
I love our fellow Canadian Keanu Reeves. He got raised in Toronto. He did some great acting there. Love the episode. Even though I only watch you play, not knowing much of the story, he did like something amazing with it. And the episode is great. And I like when he crushed the guy with his hand, like you show right now. That was funny. Great episode.
And Houston, any takeaways you want to share for Armored Core asset management?
I haven't played the last Armored Core. I played the others. I think they did a great job bringing the feel of the game there, story wise, and their animation that they did with it. I'd be down to watch a movie. I'll go pay the ridiculous, 14, 16, 18 bucks and see it in a theater. It had me hooked. It made me want more. And all around, I think they did very, very well with it in the short time, even though it was kind of one of the longer ones, but not by much. It encompassed everything, like SPG said. It had all the aspects of it.
Yeah, I definitely think as an Armored Core gamer, you felt a lot of Rubicon 6, especially in the combat. I think they captured that especially well. The look of the mechs. That pulse shield does not work that well, though. Just screw the pulse shield, just dodge. The Zimmerman and the sword, the fact that he used both of those weapons, like, it blew my mind because you do an entire run using those weapons specifically because they are so badass. So just the fact that they went out and they chose those two specifically, I feel like they did their research. They knew what the community had to say about this game. They knew what they liked, and I think they hit a lot of things close to home.
Rudix,
And
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the silent part where he goes to reach out to the voice in his head and it's gone? Do you see the panic on his face? Like,
yeah.
It was almost like a best friend had died. I don't know, man. This was really well done, and Keanu Reeves' acting was really good.
Absolutely, you could feel, and that's the mocap there too. You could see the horror in his face when that voice was missing. And in the game, it's the same way. Whenever Coral is not there with you, something is wrong. When schizophrenia is part of the design, it's not normal to be sane. So you definitely feel that with Keanu Reeves. You're along for the ride, and I think the star power just elevates it. And he only gets involved in like the absolute coolest projects. So to see him on Armored Core as the interpretation of Handler Walter, it hit every single chord of cool. Johnny Silverhand, you did it again. Like, way to hit it out of the park. Yeah, just absolutely epic. I think a great way to finish off part one. And I'll give this one up as my favorite, not only for game selection, but for artistic direction in closestness to the game, and just overall feeling at the end of it. So, shout out to Secret Level, shout out to Armored Core, giving this one my top one. But let's get into the rest of the panel, because we are going to give away our final thoughts on Secret Level and how everyone thought about the first part of the show, because we'll be getting into the second part another time. But I wanted to go over everyone's final thoughts and see what you thought about the first 8 episodes. Now available on Amazon Prime. So, Nads, what's your overall takeaway?
I was like at first when you mentioned this, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll have a look. And I started watching it. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's like, because you're a fan of video game and you watching those, it's like they try to interpret it like in how they can turn it into like a movie or a show or something like that. And the fact they're like very short, they're easy to watch and stuff like that, and they're very between like 20 minutes to like 8 minutes. I think the shorter one is. But yeah, it was quite interesting. I think they have some great actor in there, like acting specific character, and it did a great job. Like to see like Keanu Reeves and Arnold Schwarzenegger like in there. Like there's like other like character that other actor that are in there, but maybe not as well known. Maybe it's me because I'm not too much of a person. I know all the artists out there, but no, it was great. I'm just gonna keep watching the rest and see them all. Yeah, I'm quite excited for it.
Absolutely. And SPG, what's your takeaway? Top one, weakest one. How do you want to wrap it up for yourself?
I'll wrap it up this way, man. I think so far out of these first 8 episodes, we've got an 8.5 out of 10 for me. The way that they could take grandiose storytelling and trim it down to 15 minutes, trim all the fat, and get down to some concise storytelling. It was a breath of fresh air. Some of the twists were really good, like I mentioned at the Pac-Man and the end of Armored Core. I can't wait for season 2. It's already been renewed. So with the first half, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Awesome. And Houston, how did you feel about the show overall?
I really liked it. I was excited about it because some of them, I'm like, how are you going to make a story out of this? What are you going to cut out of it? Are you going to degrade what it is to make it short, simple, and sweet? And I think they did a good job on the majority of all of them, bringing what the game is to life. And I'm sure it's going to also bring life back into some of those games, if not all of them. Like
Absolutely.
I'm
Yeah, I agree.
excited as can be for what they bring second season. Are they gonna stick with, kind of just pulling across the board? They're gonna focus on more of your older titles or the newer titles? Which way are they gonna go with it? I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I mean, right after Armored Core, I downloaded and started playing just to have some more fun with that Zimian sword, so I get it. Jem, what are your overall thoughts, feelings on the 2 episodes you've watched, if you want to give that?
I could give you my overall opinion about secret levels.
Let's hear it.
So like I said, I only watched it because Wilson was gonna watch it. I thought I'd tag along. Personally, when it was announced, I just had zero interest. I still have zero interest. Couldn't care less about season 2, mainly because um, they're limited to like 10 minutes, and doesn't matter how great their writing is, you can't really tell a proper story in 10 minutes. It's always going to be like these short little clips. And the ones I've seen were good, like the D&D and Pac-Man. They were good. But if I want more, what am I going to do? Absolutely nothing. There's nothing I can do if I want more. If I want this world to be expanded, if I want to see how these characters' fate ends or progresses, there's nothing. It's like going to a shop and they just give you a teaser, like those free taste test things. It's like they just give you that, and then you're like, oh, I like this. I want to buy the actual product. They'll be like, no, it doesn't exist. You're just gonna get that, and that's it. So knowing that, I just wasn't interested in secret levels. Doesn't to me, it doesn't matter how good the writing is. It's just at the end of the day, it's just short stories. I just couldn't care less, and none of these are canon either. So if I like it's a very specific game and they did an episode on a specific part, I wouldn't watch it either because it's not canon. It doesn't matter. It's absolutely doesn't matter at all. That's it. That's my opinion.
And thanks for sharing it. Just one more thing to add to your opinion. Would it have changed if there was a Crash Bandicoot episode?
I was thinking that if there was a Crash Bandicoot episode, I'm gonna be a hypocrite. I would have watched it. I would have watched the Crash Bandicoot episode.
We all love our
It might be
IPs.
on season 2.
If
Fair
it is
enough.
on season 2, I will watch it. I will definitely watch it, just Crash Bandicoot episode.
All right. Well, Maker, you're back. You want to give your
Yeah.
final thoughts on Secret Level? What did you think? What is your ending on the first 8 episodes?
I think first 8 episodes, I'd probably give like an 8 out of 10. It had some misses, but I really loved some of them. Like I would say it was half and half. I guess I feel the same about Love, Death, and Robots, which is it's made by the same dude. Where you're gonna get misses in these, but overall I thought they did a pretty good job with these. And I look forward to season 2.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, that was our coverage on the first 8 episodes of Secret Level here on Cloud&Console. Ray, thanks for jumping on in with a 9 out of 10. I definitely agree with you, man. That first 8 episodes was a strong showing. It's hard for me to find a miss out of those first 8 episodes there. I'm definitely a huge fan. But until the next time when we'll be covering the next 8 episodes of Secret Level, be sure to join the Discord so you can follow all of these awesome content creators. Be sure to have a safe and happy holidays because we're coming right around to that time. And until next time, make sure to watch out for a friend of ours. God damn it, soundboard. Load up. That was going to be so perfect timing. Nope.
Goddamn
it's not,
soundboard.
It's not happening. It's not happening. So until the next time.
Wilson's in the bathroom way too long again.
There it is.
That's
Take
it. I'm
care.
monetizing this whole goddamn podcast.
Yeah. Take care and have a good one.
See you, bye.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Later.
Grove. 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 Why try to believe in me? Why try do I even need to? I die with the season leaves. I glide with the season breeze. True, my mind so easily spooked. I but as sick as beats.